Grace and peace, everybody. Good morning. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. I want to talk about this Southern Poverty Law Center indictment. It's very interesting. I had not kept up with what was going on with the what is it called? The SPLC. And I hadn't been keeping up on it until I heard recently that they had been indicted on like wire fraud and a couple other shenanigans and hiring people to be a part of organizations that they are denouncing. It's crazy work. And I thought about, I was like, at what point does this become like espionage, like a level of espionage or sabotage, even like to say you're planting people within an organization to uproot the organization. Isn't that some kind of sabotage? It just seems weird. But of course, that being indicted doesn't mean that they've been found criminally liable at all. It just means that they've been indicted. And as most people, and we're going to look at, somebody's going to say today, you can indict a ham sandwich. So that's not the point. I just want to look at this because I think it has some very interesting implications. And especially if you're one of these people who are like, oh, it's perfectly fine, all's fair in doing this. I'm going to ask you some questions later on about this. So what I want to do, shout out to the best live chat on the internet, Actual Justice Warrior. He did a summary of this, as well as a friend of the channel, Megan Grout. She did a summary of it, and both of those links that we're going to look at today are down in the description. I want y'all to check them out. And of course, if you run across better, or as the story develops and becomes more fulfilled and filled out, we'll maybe come back and talk about it again. I just thought it was very interesting. I do think it shows something about our political activist system that this kind of stuff can go on. So let me bring this in. Shout out to you all. Let's go ahead and check it out. Green hearts in the chat when you can hear.
5 years, the Southern Poverty Law Center has stood as a beacon of hope, fighting white supremacy and various forms of injustice to create a multiracial democracy where we can all live and thrive. We are therefore unsurprised to be the latest organization targeted by this administration. They have made no secret of who they want to protect and who they want to destroy.
So the Southern Poverty Law Center decided to release a video fighting back against the allegations, or allegations as the super mayor would call them.
False allegations and not facts.
From the evil bad orange man's Department of Justice. And in this video decided to release a video fighting back against the allegations, or allegations as the super mayor would call them.
False allegations and not facts.
From the evil bad orange man's Department of Justice. And in this video response, which by the way ends up having the comments turned off, the likes, and
hold on one second. Have I been muted the whole time? I'm muted. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. I'm gonna go get me some coffee. Y'all. I've been muted the whole time. I'm looking here and I'm not muted now. Y'all, at this stage of the game, Jason, I'm actually expecting better from you. I am. I'm expecting better from you. Oh, you didn't hear my conversation about the allegations, but you heard the opening. Oh, just the, oh, okay, that's not that bad. Okay, cool. All right, then. I'm not going to fire myself then. All right, so okay, so I was not prepared for Tiffany Henyard. I was not prepared for that. So, okay, let's do this. Thank y'all so much. See, that's why y'all the best live chat on the internet. All right, let me back this thing up. I'm still going to laugh about allegations because that's hilarious. All right, let's make this thing right. All right, here we go. We're going to try it again.
For 55 years, the Southern Poverty Law Center has stood as a beacon of hope,
of course,
fighting white supremacy and various forms of injustice to create a multiracial democracy where we can all live and thrive. We are therefore unsurprised to be the latest organization targeted by this administration. They have made no secret of who they want to protect and who they want to destroy.
So the Southern Poverty Law Center decided to release a video fighting back against the allegations, or allegations as the super mayor would call them,
False allegations and not facts.
from the evil bad Orange Man's Department of Justice. And in this video response, which by the way ends up having the comments turned off, the likes and dislikes turned off, so you can't actually see how the public is responding to their response, they have said, look, we did nothing wrong. We are being targeted by the evil bad Orange Man. And as proof of this alleged targeting, they end up citing the fact that Kash Patel's FBI ended up severing a relationship with the SPLC back in October of last year.
For example, in October, FBI Director Kash Patel announced the Bureau would sever its ties with the SPLC.
Now, if you guys will remember, Charlie Kirk was assassinated in September of that particular year, and obviously the SPLC had been targeting Turning Point USA, so it seemed like a good moment in time in order to break off that relationship. And by the way, the Southern Poverty Law Center has definitely become a partisan organization over the years. It probably always was, so it's hilarious to me to watch this guy try to make the case that it's outrageous that we would label them as what they actually are.
And in December, House Republicans held a hearing.
Okay, I'm taken aback. Hold on. So the face of the Southern Poverty Law Center is a black man who supported people infiltrating white supremacy groups. And we're going to look at it. They were putting lots of bread into it. It wasn't just $10 per diem, right? It was a lot of money they were putting into these, I think they call them field operatives, that they were putting field operatives into this. This was not a one-off, like, oh yeah, by the way, here's $10 to go get some gas. This was a lot of bread they were putting in these people's pockets. I'm sorry. And the fact that this is a black man who's supporting this, and again, if you're somebody that supports the Southern Poverty Law Center, I do have some questions later on. So I want you to stick around, because I want to hear what your thoughts are on this. But let's keep going.
To accuse us of being partisan and profitable.
Now, that being said, the Southern Poverty Law Center obviously is entitled to defend themselves. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty in the United States of America. However, one of the things that I find incredibly interesting about this video statement, and by the way, other defenders of the SPLC, and by the way, people who are commenting that think the SPLC is guilty, is that there is a total lack of understanding of what they're actually being charged with, what the actual allegations or allegations actually are in this particular case.
Okay, hold on. If he's going to do that, he needs to actually include Tiffany Inyard. If he's going to say allegations, he's got to have to put that in there. That's just, I'm just going to I'm going to email Actual Justice Warrior and say, hey man, if you're going to make Tiffany Inyard references, you got to slice that in there, man. That's just got to be what happens, man. You got to, bro. You got to.
And considering I did a whole video breaking it down, which will be linked in the description, I think it's important for us to review this, because one of the things that you'll realize is that they're not actually talking about what was the indictable offenses. Right. They're rather going after the narrative, which I guess is smart because they're litigating the public opinion portion in the court of public opinion, and likely they're trying to save their legal arguments for when they're actually arguing about legal matters. So this is what we're going to talk about today. This is what we're going to discuss. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
The latest threat is the most serious: a criminal investigation and possible charges against the SPLC or some of our employees. Although we don't know all the details, the focus appears to be on the SPLC's prior use of paid confidential informants to gather credible intelligence on extremely violent groups. This use of informants was necessary because we are no stranger to threats of violence. In 1983, our offices were firebombed.
So first of all, it is very notable, in my opinion, that they don't actually have a recent example of something as dramatic.
I thought that too, but I was going to wait to see if maybe they brought up something that was newer. I thought they would maybe go like with the furthest thing in the past, 1983, because your boy was like 9 years old, right? So that's pretty old. I was hoping that they would maybe come up with something newer. But it's also interesting that he said extremist groups and violent extremist groups, but they were looking into Turning Point USA. Okay. And they're not partisan. Remember that. They said they're not partisan. Okay, gotcha.
As a firebombing happening to their offices. They have to go back to 1983. That is quite a long time ago.
It was a
And
while
again,
ago.
this is part of the obfuscation of what we're actually supposed to be talking about, which of course is the regular ordinary requirements of disclosure of how funds are donated, and apparently the alleged actual obfuscation in terms of financial documents of that information from the public. Because while the glitz and glamorous headlines of the SPLC funding all these different various organizations, including the Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazis, and of course the Unite the Right people, are the things that are grabbing everybody's attention.
According to the charges in the indictment, the SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
What you actually have to look at is the details of the case so you can understand why they're vulnerable to criminal charges and what this issue legally is actually about.
In light of that work, we sought to protect the safety of our staff and the public. We frequently shared what we learned from informants with local and federal law enforcement, including the FBI. We did not, however, share our use of informants broadly with anyone, to protect the identity and safety of the informants and their families.
So look, of all the things that I think are a mistake from this particular video from the Southern Poverty Law Center, this one is absolutely the most crucial, which is him saying, look, we sent these informants into these organizations, which, by the way, you are allowed to do. I mean, it's a form of espionage, but it is private espionage. As long as it doesn't cross the threshold into corporate espionage, I don't believe that this is actually illegal. Again, you have to follow the regular ordinary wiretapping laws and all the things that would apply in these private scenarios. But the thing that he said right there at the end, which is we would share this information with the FBI, again, perfectly fine, to report evidence of crimes that you end up discovering. However, they did not share their use of informants broadly with the public. That is actually the problem, because again, while you could do with a private organization essentially whatever you want inside the confines of the law, of course, if you're a 501c3, you have tax exempt status. And one of the conditions of that tax exempt status is that you have to reveal to the public how you're spending your money. And I don't know if this goes as far as to reveal each and every individual that you have on payroll, or if it's only people that are above a certain amount. But at the very least, at the bare minimum, you would think that you would have to disclose that you are making payments in some kind of proper way to individuals that are doing undercover work or doing investigation work, however you want to classify it on your documents. But the thing that you can't do is set up a bunch of fake companies that you don't even incorporate. So they're like shell corporations, according to the indictment, that are not even actual shell corporations, like there is no shell, in order to funnel money to these individuals. It seems like you were deliberately trying to obfuscate that beyond the normal means that you would normally see. And this is what produced the red flag. This is why they're being charged with money laundering, conspiracy to do money laundering, and of course fraud, because they weren't making people aware of the fact that they were paying. And by the way, you could have maybe classified this as investigative procedures or something of the sort. Instead, they were paying some organization, some shell corporation that, according to the indictment, wasn't even a corporation, taking out bank accounts with those names on the bank accounts in order to give these people money. And by the way, according to the indictment, they would also give them the money in the forms of like prepaid debit cards and stuff that was deliberately designed to not be traceable, which is a problem when you have reporting requirements of a 501c3. Like, do you guys see the issue right here? Do you guys see what's not being talked about by a lot of people in the media, but in addition to that, by this individual right here?
And while we no longer work with paid informants, we continue to take their safety seriously. These individuals.
I just want to stop for a second. So I understand what they were doing, and to a degree, I can respect that. Oh, okay. We want to know what this really terrible group, they drive by and they throw gerbils at people. So we want to know what they're about. We want to infiltrate them and find out what they're about. Okay, I get that part. We're just not letting people know that that's what their donations are going toward. That's weird. I can see the problem with that. But especially if you're somebody who maybe, sides with them, at what point would this happen? At what point, where would this stop? Where would this stop? Because they've determined that these groups are people non grata, because again, Turning Point was one of the groups that they were investigating. So they determine who are the people that need to be investigated, who are the bad people. Do you not see the problem with that? What if a Jehovah's Witness organization said that your XYZ Baptist, your XYZ Presbyterian church is a bad group and we need to infiltrate that? And we need to send people over there to find out what y'all are doing, to get involved in what y'all are doing. Like, is that not problematic to you? That sounds scary as all get out. At what point do they say, a Muslim group says, hey, I'm gonna stop banging my head on the ground 5 times a day. I want to go over here and see what's going on over here at this Lutheran church and identify them as bad people. And now we have determined that they have bad theology, or they're teaching something against the Quran or against the phony, false, and fake Prophet Muhammad, whatever like that. And now we report them to the government. I'm sorry, that sounds crazy as heck. I'm sorry, and everybody claims to be a 501c3. So they all can do it. I'm sorry, that's problematic, y'all. I'm sorry. This is, and again, I don't know, and maybe if you're more well-versed in how people get on the SPLC's radar, how do they pick these people? How do they pick these organizations? How do they know? Because we're going to find out, and I see a lot of people commenting, even in the chat, like Nick Fuentes may very well have been a paid informant. It's very possible that Nick Fuentes was a part of this organization. Now, most of y'all are getting your feelings about Nick Fuentes, but on the same note, SPLC may have very well been paying this guy. That's crazy work. It's some crazy work. This is some insanity right here. I want y'all to think about this. Like, this is not a good idea. I mean, there's no standard. They could just determine that your church is church non grata, and we're going to infiltrate. We're going to pay informants to get into your church and get into the mix and the mingle and find out what's going on, and maybe get in trouble, maybe cause trouble, cause division. And now I'm starting to think, how many people have been caught up in foolishness in churches, and maybe they were being paid by the SPLC? I don't feel like I'm making a reach. Some of these cases where somebody's doing something bad, and now the church looks terrible, and the body of Christ has a black eye, so to speak, because of that person. How many of those people may have been coming from the SPLC or an organization like that is paying people to go into churches or paying people to go into organizations to quote unquote infiltrate? But as we're hearing here in the indictment, they were actually stoking the actual problems. So it wasn't just like, oh, hey, this church is doing XYZ that's bad. They sent somebody in and said, hey, by the way, maybe we should do XYZ. Let's do this. I don't see how this is a reach. Let me know if I'm reaching. If you think I'm reaching and you're somebody that supports the I was doing good, right? SPLC, email management. Let me know that I'm wrong. Please email me what I'm missing if I'm not understanding the role that this organization is playing, because I see this as extremely problematic. Extremely problematic. Let's bring this back in, y'all. Let's go.
Risked their lives to infiltrate and inform on the activities of our nation's most radical and violent extremist groups. When we began working with informants,
radical and violent, but they were looking at Turning Point USA. I'm not saying they weren't looking at real bona fide radical and violent groups, but Turning Point USA was on their list. I want to know what other groups are on their list, because it sounds like they might be the ones that determine that you are the people non grata. Is there a standard? Like, what is the standard for this? Were they looking at any leftist groups? Were they looking at Cantifa or Antifa or any furry groups? Were they involved with them, or only right-leaning groups? I need to know that. And I think you should want to ask that. That seems like that seems very reasonable question. Okay, let's go.
We were living in the shadow of the height of the civil rights movement, which had seen bombings at churches, state-sponsored violence against demonstrators, and the murders of activists that went unanswered by the justice system.
So this I found incredibly hilarious because this guy says we were living in the height of the shadow of the civil rights era, which is supposed to implant the idea in your mind that this was really close to the civil rights era. But in reality, it's actually expressing the distance from it, because then he goes on to say that that had seen church bombings and all sorts of things, and imply that that somehow is more closely connected to the SPLC than it actually is. And make no mistake about it, a lot of these like racist groups or white nationalist groups have engaged in violence. I'm not saying that there is no threat. I'm not saying that the SPLC actually lives under no threat, but you're kind of obfuscating the main issue right here. And one of the things that was highlighted in the indictment, and this can be found in section 11A of the indictment, and it reads as follows. And by the way, the informants are labeled with the letter F and then a number. So this informant is called F37. F37 was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the quote, Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia, and attended the event at the direction of the SPLC. F37 made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. Between 2015 and 2023, the SPLC paid F37 more than $270,000. Now,
Hold on. Just let that marinate for a second. Let that marinate. So in 8 years, this dude or this lady, maybe it was Nick Fuentes, I don't know. But first of all, they got 36 other field operatives. Who knows what the height, how many they have in total. But they paid this person over 8 years, $270,000. And notice a person made racist postings. It wasn't just that they were just a part of it and paying attention, but they were actually facilitating and stoking it. This is crazy work, y'all.
Now, one of the undergirding allegations right here is that the Southern Poverty Law Center was in fact creating the very hatred that they would say that they're fighting against, and they were profiting off of fighting against the hatred that they created. In this particular instance, we have the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Again, one of the most profitable things that could have happened to an organization like the SPLC, and according to Fox News's examination of their financial documents, this actually produced 80 million plus additional dollars in donations as compared to the previous year, where they received $50 million in donations. And I also want to point out that that was also inflated because they were fundraising off of the evil bad orange man being the president of the United States for the first time after the 2016 election. But in addition to that, according to the indictment, again, it's alleged innocent until proven guilty. This guy not only attended and spied on this, he was not only in the group chat that was planning this, but he also, according to the indictment, coordinated the transportation of certain attendees in order to attend the event. So this guy that was a paid informant by the SPLC, who supposedly is just infiltrating and, of course, gathering information, is actively participating in the planning and, by the way, the making of this event even bigger than it was before of Charlottesville. And Charlottesville is something that the Southern Poverty Law Center likely raised 81 million additional dollars off of. And of course, they never disclosed that they had a hand in it. In fact, they still talk about Charlottesville. They still talk about all these different problems in our society. And this is not the first time that they had a shady dealing. Another organization, and we will go over that, it's right after this, section 11B of the indictment, actually had somebody be paid that was in that organization over $1 million over the course of around a decade. And this guy actually participated in crimes like breaking and entering and theft. F9 was affiliated with the neo-Nazi organization, the National Alliance, and he served as an F for the SPLC for 20 years. F9's activities included fundraising for the National Alliance between 2014 and 2023. The SPLC secretly paid F9 more than $1 million. In 2014, F9 entered the headquarters of a violent violent extremist group and stole 25 boxes of their documents. F9 coordinated the payment for copying these materials with a high-level SPLC employee who had knowledge that the documents had been stolen. The original stolen materials were returned to the violent extremist group in a second illegal entry by F9. Thereafter, the high-level SPLC employee used the document in part as the basis for a story published on the SPLC's Hate Watch website and authored by the employee. Another F39, was blamed for the theft and paid approximately $6,000 by the SPLC to falsely take responsibility for the theft. Now, the whole indictment will be linked in the description of
That's
this video.
crazy.
In total, they paid about $3 million to these informants over the period of time that is being covered. And you can see there are other large payments, one of $300,000, one of $140,000. And again, it's not the payments itself. It's not the getting the information itself that is the issue. It's the fact that they hid these payments, according to the indictment, with a bunch of fake entities obfuscating reporting requirements for a 501c3. And according to Section 13 of the indictment, they opened a series of bank accounts with Bank 1 and Bank 2 with the name of various fictitious entities, including but not limited to the Center for Investigative Agency, aka CIA, Fox Photography, Northwest Technologies, aka Northwest Tech, Tech Writers Group, aka Tech Writers, Rare Books Warehouse, aka Rare Books, and the fictitious entities were never incorporated and had no bona fide employees and conducted no actual business.
Today, the federal government has been weaponized to dismantle the rights of our nation's most vulnerable people and any organization like ours that tries to stand in the breach. We stood in the vanguard then, and we stand in the vanguard today. We will not be intimidated into silence or contrition.
Now, again, these are technical financial crimes that they're being indicted under. Think about if they convict on this, it would be like getting Al Capone for tax evasion. While we all know about Capone's crazy, broader schemes and whatnot, and his association with the mafia, it was a financial issue that ended up doing him in. And the Department of Justice appears to want that to be the case right here. Because again, even though it's super shady and shisty that they were paying off somebody who is organizing and coordinating transportation to the Unite the Right protest, to which they apparently fundraised $81 million off of after Heather Heyer was killed at that protest. And by the way, there was a lot of violence there. The fact is, that's not technically illegal to have somebody spying or doing something like this unless they're doing something illegal that's within your knowledge that you're paying them to do. That's not an issue at hand. The issue at hand is the lack of disclosure to the donors of the SPLC, who likely don't expect them to be funneling their money to these extremist groups or to members of the extremist groups. And again, a lot of people believe that the SPLC is creating the racism that they're fighting against. And it's hard to argue that they don't have an extraordinary incentive in order to do so, because if you put in $270,000 to the Unite the Right guy over the course of 10 years, and in 1 year you got 81 million additional dollars in your organization, not very many investments can beat that. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below and the response from the SPLC. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias. So
Shout out to Actual Justice Warrior. The link is down in the description for this video. I thought that was very interesting and it shed a lot of light. Also, I want to bring in, and this one's a little bit longer, but it's super informative. Friend of the channel, Megan Grout. She took some time to break this down as well. You may or may not have seen this. I know you've seen her before. She's a legal expert here in Georgia. Go Dogs. And she had a lot to say about this. I thought she brought some good understanding, some good clarity going over the indictment and such of that nature. So I'm going to bring this in so you all can check it out as well. And I definitely want to hear what you think about this. Do you think that this is a bad thing, that they are indicting the SPLC? Do you think it's, an attempt to quash the less vulnerable or freedom of speech? What are your thoughts on that? Definitely put that in the comments below. Let's go ahead and bring in Megan. How are you doing, Megan? Good to see you. Let's go. Green hearts in the chat when you can hear.
Hey, everyone. Absolutely shocking news. You are not going to believe these allegations when I tell you about them. that the feds have indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center. So that means they are being criminally charged over issues of alleged wire fraud, money laundering, lying to banks. And I'm going to break down the indictment because I was genuinely shocked when I saw some of these allegations in there. And what I think we are seeing now is something that is going to affect all of us, regardless of what political team you like to follow. This is really big news for everyone. So let me start really quickly by breaking down what the Southern Poverty Law Center is so you can understand why this is such a big deal. So this is from the SPLC's very own website, and they say the SPLC was founded in 1971 to ensure that the promise of the civil rights movement became a reality for all. Since then, we've won numerous landmark legal victories on behalf of the exploited, the powerless, and the forgotten. So yeah, I mean, that's a little opaque about what they do, but basically they're a charity. They are a 501c3. That means they're a charity recognized by the IRS. Your contributions are tax deductible, whose mission involves rooting out what they define as hate groups. These listed on the screen are some of the ones.
Okay. And I'm going to pull it up there so you can see it right there. Megan is extremely judicious about using certain words, which again, you can't use certain words here on YouTube or on different social media platforms. So that's why she does that. And she kind of explains it as well.
That they go after. Really quick aside, for those of you that don't understand social media, yes, there are words that I cannot say out loud. I wish I could. I should be able to. But there are algorithms out there that on some platforms, might not be the one you're watching me on, that will just absolutely ban my content if they hear me using those words. Do I like it? No, I don't like it. But I don't have a choice because the only other option is I get banned completely. So if you don't like it, move along. Okay, so anyway, the SPLC, their kind of mission is to root out and expose these groups. And they do things like political lobbying. They file lawsuits on behalf of what they believe to be wronged parties. It is very much a left-leaning charity. And I don't think they would disagree with that. I think that's a pretty fair characterization of what they do. Okay. Now, one of the larger issues that has been kind of slowly moving with regard to this charity is charities are not supposed to be political. They, if you start doing overt political activity, you can lose your 501c3 status. But, you know, there are things that are political but not political, like registering certain groups to vote and going after certain. One of the things that I think the SPLC did that was pretty controversial in my view is describing Tucker Carlson as a hate group or hate person, which you may not agree with what Tucker Carlson says. You might dislike him a great deal, but it was a bit much to be labeled a hate group. So you can kind of see that they lean really hard to one side. Okay. But they are still a charity. They get all their donations from people and corporations with the promise that they are working hard to stop this specific kind of race-based hate that is going on in the United States. All right. Now I want to show you really quick about what size of an organization we are talking about. And so check this out. This is also from the SPLC.
And by the way, I'm going to have to reach out to Megan. She likes to record vertically. I don't know why, because it would make the screen bigger if she did it landscape style. I don't know why. The link is down in the description, so you can definitely still check her out. Please support good content creators. She does an excellent job of breaking down these various and sundry cases. So shout out to Megan.
Latest financial information on their website. And it says, at the end of the fiscal year, the SPLC's endowment, composed primarily of board designated funds to support future work, stood at $731.9 million.
Wow.
So this is a huge charity. They are taking in enormous amounts of money. I am sure they have an expansive administrative board. There are people that earn salaries from this charity. It is a money-making machine while also being a charity. Okay. And I am not throwing shade on that at all. That is how a lot of huge charities work on either side of the aisle. And I'll also say really quick, and I'm about to get into the indictment so you can see these crazy allegations. There are organizations very similar to the SPLC on the other side of the aisle that do the very same things, rooting out liberal groups, naming liberal groups, creating lists, things like that, lobbying, educating. Happens on both sides. Neither party is above board when it comes to having these kind of semi-charitable advocacy groups. Okay? All right.
Okay, so I agree with that. I don't know if there's one as big on the right that points out the left, but that's there, and I believe that that's fair enough. The only problem is, are they paying people to do these things, and is it being reported? That's the question I have. But shout out to Megan.
Now, this is the first page of the indictment, and here is why this is mind-blowing. So the introduction pretty much sums up what the federal government is saying that the SPLC has done that is criminally wrong. The Southern Poverty Law Center its stated mission includes the dismantling of white supremacy and confronting hate across the country. However, unbeknownst to donors, some of their donated money was being used to fund the leaders and organizers of these kind of groups, including this one, and this one. Nope, can't say it out loud. Sorry, folks. The SPLC paid informants, what they called field sources, engaged in the active promotion of these kind of groups. At the same time, the SPLC was denouncing those same groups on the website. So the very basis of what I just said is this. The SPLC had what they called field informants within these hate groups that they were paying money to, allegedly to get information. Okay? I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to tell you that the SPLC has already issued some public statements about this indictment. They are saying, and will be saying, I'm sure, in more detail in the future.
Sure.
Yes, we used secret, confidential informants, basically, in these groups to help find out information about it because it helps us dismantle them, to have people from the inside, which on its face to me is not terribly unreasonable. I take issue, and this is again my opinion right now, with they are not the FBI trying to take down the mafia here, okay? They are a charitable group. I believe at least some of what they're doing is good and is something that we would want to see happen. However, we're already starting to get into a little bit of a gray area that they're doing more political stuff than charitable stuff. And then it's getting a little grayer after that because they are using these confidential informants. And how much of that did donors really know? That's
my question. That's the problem I have. Because following this logic, they could determine that a group is a hate group and infiltrate it with their own confidential informants and quote unquote try to bring it down, but actually stoking the fire, blah, blah, blah. And the people that are donating to the SPLC don't ever need to know that this was going on. That what you see on TV, this group, firebombing something or protesting, rioting, whatever, was possibly facilitated and stoked on and encouraged by one of the people in the SPLC. That's crazy work. Yeah, I don't know if I really don't want that to be the way that they're able to get away with that. Because again, like I could see this going so many different ways, being used in so many different cases and instances. It's crazy.
You all were using my money that I give you to pay confidential informants, and how much of that was clearly indicated in their books. Because one of the things we got to remember, again, they're a charity. Their books kind of have to be wide open so that the feds can confirm that they are doing what they promised to do in order to get their charitable status. Okay. So we're already into some bit of a gray area here. And again, the SPLC hasn't denied that they've used these field informants. But they say it's perfectly acceptable what they were doing because it was helping them to dismantle these groups. Okay. Keep that in mind because now we're going to dig a little deeper into the indictment. Let's get into it. Okay, so this page of the indictment explains kind of the plan or the scheme, if you want to look at it from a negative standpoint, of what the SPLC was doing with regard to their paid informants. So it says, starting in the 1980s, the SPLC began operating a covert network of informants who were either associated with violent extremist groups, such as this one, or who had infiltrated the violent extremist groups at the SPLC's direction. So they already had people that were in the organization, or
Shout out to Megan. Okay, down in the chat, real quick, people, I'm going to drop the link. So I just found the indictment, and so I'm dropping it in the chat for you all, so you can follow along with her. You can go back and do your own research later on after the fact and whatnot like that. So here's the indictment. It's not very long. It's only like 10 pages, and it does have a lot of narrative in it. So it does read pretty interestingly. So anyway, that was it. I want to make sure you had that. Shout out to Megan Grout. Link is down, and I'll make sure the link is in the description. I'm gonna try to put it back in the description after this as well. All right, let's go.
they were actually paying people to become members of these alleged hate groups.
Paying your membership
These
fees.
informants were referred to by some individuals within the SPLC as the, quote, field sources, or the Fs. Between at least 2014 and 2023, the SPLC paid their Fs in a clandestine manner. Doing so hid the fact that while the SPLC received donation money.
Hold on. I'm looking at it. This thing is wild. Hold on. Let me show y'all. Yeah, I wish Megan had put it like landscape style so you can see it. Was instead being used as in part by the SPLC to pay leaders and others within the same violent extremist groups. Like, that's crazy. So would they have been violent and extreme without your people being monetarily incentivized to make sure that they were violent and extreme? I'm not saying that, these groups are not going to, that they were, Girl Scouts or something. What I am saying is it possible your people were incentivized to make sure that they were violent? That's crazy. That is wild work. Did you tacitly create your own rogues gallery, as I like to say, Batman? Did you create your own rogues gallery, SPLC? You created the own problem that you're solving, allegedly. Shout out to Megan. This is wild. All right, let's bring this back in. So anyway, the link, put the link back in here, or the mods can put the link in the chat. Make sure everybody, you can grab a copy of this, and I'll make sure it's in the description as well. Let's go back to Megan. Let's go, Megan.
Under the auspices that funds would be used to, quote, dismantle the violent extremist groups, this donation money was instead being used in part by the SPLC to pay leaders and others within these same violent extremist groups. That money was then used for the benefit of the individuals as well as the violent extremist groups. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in SPLC funds to the Fs who were associated with various violent extremist groups. So $3 million has been given to members of these violent extremist groups under the auspices. So under the allegation, we were funding them because they were helping us to dismantle these groups. Okay. That is an extreme amount of money. So now the indictment gets into what kind of examples of this funding there were. So take a look at this. F9, so this is one of their field sources, was affiliated with this organization, the National Alliance, and served as an F for the SPLC for more than 20 years. So basically they're saying there's one guy that was in this organization for 20 years and we were funding him. F9's activities included fundraising for the National Alliance. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC paid this person more than $1 million. In 2014, this person, F9 is what they're calling him, entered the headquarters of a violent extremist group and stole 25 boxes of their documents. F9 coordinated paying for the copying of the materials with a high-level SPLC employee who had knowledge the documents had been stolen. The original stolen materials were then returned to the violent extremist group in a second illegal entry by F9. Thereafter, the high-level SPLC employee utilized the documents in part as the basis for a story published on the SPLC's Hate Watch website, authored by the employee. Another field person, F39, was blamed for the theft and was paid approximately $6,000 by the SPLC to falsely take responsibility for the theft. Okay, I need to stop right here and be very clear about something. You can indict a ham sandwich. Basically, it is super easy to indict something because the grand jury never hears the other side of it. They only hear one side of the argument. We know how easy that is because we can remember that Mahendra Patel in Cobb County was indicted on kidnapping charges, even after the state had a video showing he did not do that, because they didn't show the grand jury the video, right? So super easy to get indicted. And the second thing you need to remember is indictments are allegations. They're not proof of anything. So while I'm going through all this, we all need to be very even-handed in remembering these are allegations. These aren't things that have been proved yet, okay? With all of that said, what I just read to you is insane. They are alleging, the federal government is saying they have evidence, we haven't seen it yet, that number one, this charity paid someone to commit a crime. Because even if they are horrible, horrible human beings, you don't get to break into their office and steal their stuff. That's against the law.
That is so wild, man. These people did that thing with their whole chest. They said, we are about to break the law, and then we're gonna feign that we are the ones that are being persecuted. Y'all make this thing make sense. Make this make sense. Shout out to the best live chat. Thank y'all so much, everybody who's jumped in. Let's go.
Then they used that information to write an article about what was going on. And they returned all of this documentation. So they broke in again and returned it.
Double break.
And then they had someone take the fall for them criminally. And they paid that person to take the fall. I don't care if you are doing the Lord's work. You can't do that. And this is supposed to be a charity. So if those allegations are true all by themselves, absolutely shocking. All right. Now let's move on to some of the other crazy allegations. This is another paragraph in the indictment that says F unknown was the imperial wizard of the United Clans of America. In an article published on November 22nd, 2013, the SPLC described the group as a millennial reboot of what was once a serious domestic threat. In its prime, the United Clans of America was responsible for, among other things, the 16th Street Baptist Church, in Birmingham, Alabama, which resulted in the death of 4 little girls in 1963. We all remember.
Wait, that was 1963, though. What have they done recently?
Learned in history class, we'll remember that when that happened. Right. Okay. So what's a little confusing to me about this paragraph is it doesn't say whether they paid this person, or I don't know what I'm missing here. Of course I have to ask, did they pay a imperial wizard that was in that group? Did the SPLC pay them? I don't know. But if you move on to further down, here's another page. They say that F42 was the former chairman of the National Alliance. The SPLC website contained an extremist file on the webpage about F42, from which the SPLC solicited donations. Between 2016 and 2023, the SPLC secretly paid F42 more than $140,000. This overlapped the time period in which F42 was featured on the SPLC's extremist file page. F30 led the National Socialist Party of America and was the former director of the faction of the Aryan Nations and a former member of this group. The SPLC website contained an extremist file for the web page for F30, from which the SPLC solicited donations. Between 2014 and 2016, the SPLC secretly paid F30 more than $70,000. This overlapped the time
That's
period in which
crazy.
F30 was featured on the SPLC's extremist file webpage. Then it says F43 was the reported national president of the American Front and a convicted federal felon for his participation in a cross burning. Between 2016 and 2019, the SPLC secretly paid F43 more than $19,000. Okay, so that is a lot to absorb, and this is my analysis of it. They are saying that the SPLC, first of all, that they didn't just fund random, like low-level guys to get information from. They were funding the leaders of this group, or these groups. So my first question has to be, how is that helping to dismantle a group when you're funding the leadership? Were those groups dismantled? Did suddenly, these leaders turn around and implode the whole group? Because it just strikes me as a strange strategic move to pay money to the leaders of these groups. And that leads to the bigger issue, which is the SPLC is using the hate spewing of these leaders on their web pages, those specific people, to get donations. And then they're turning around and paying those same leaders. And while I understand what the SPLC's argument is here, hey, we were using these people to dismantle these groups, I think they've got a lot of explaining to do when it comes to those specific situations that I just read back to you, because they're funding the leadership, not the underlings to help get information.
And that's what, and we're gonna look at two more videos. Now that we're watching this, I want to watch two more about this. I do think it's interesting. If you're funding the leader and the leader is really wilding out, and the wilding out causes people to lose their lives or people go to jail or whatever of that nature, and then the leader gets paid by the SPLC, that's crazy work. I even think, truly, I think even some of the underlings, that's problematic. But if you're paying the leader, that's wild.
And they're benefiting from highlighting how hateful those leaders are to get more donations. Okay, again, these are allegations, but this is where I think the SPLC is in some serious trouble if those facts are true. That is a really ugly situation for them to be in. All right. Let me fast forward quickly and tell you the rest of the indictment breaks down the crimes themselves. They are accused of wire fraud. And this has to do with the fact that what the SPLC did was, and again, they have agreed that they had done this. They created fake corporations, shell corporations that had bank accounts. Then they paid all the people we just talked about. They paid them through these fake organizations. Right. The SPLC is saying, look, we had to pay them through fake organizations because if the head of this, supremacist group, they find out that, hey, he got a payment from the SPLC, it explodes everything. So the problem is, number one, like we just talked about, really shady dealings, very questionable with regard to being a charity. Wire fraud is one of the criminal allegations that they are now facing, because I will tell you honestly right now, pretty much everything that involves bank transactions has some electronic transfer these days. So they, in this particular indictment, they alleged a list of wire transfers that happened on one particular day. I suspect if there are more charges coming, they're going to be able to find multiple other dates where these same kind of things occurred, but they used at least one just to get the indictment moving forward. And so we have those dates where they used fake corporations to send money to those individuals. We then have an allegation that they lied to these federally insured banks, which is apparently a federal law. That one's new to me. I've never dealt with something like that before. But they had these groups made up fake or ownership of who these fake corporations were and lied on the documentation to these banks. And then the last thing is the conspiracy with regard to money laundering, because they had donors that gave them money, and now that money was being used for purposes that maybe weren't so above board. A couple of questions. Number one, I'm sure people are going to ask is, well, did a donor complain? And I don't think a donor has to establish these criminal allegations, because I think the government can step in and say, you were committing fraud on a broad scale. We don't need to have a wronged party because you were eliciting donations unlawfully. So I don't think they need a specific donor that complained about it. And now we get to the big elephant in the room, which is, did the SPLC fund the enemy to keep the war going. And that's where the rubber hits the road for every one of us, no matter what side of the political aisle we are on, because this is a much bigger problem. With regard to this specific indictment, the big allegation is, hey, look, if we keep funding those hate groups,
Correct.
they'll keep being hateful. And then we'll keep raking in money for people to, to fund us to stop the hate groups.
Yep.
So it is one of those, you wash my back, I'll wash yours. Everybody wins. Everybody makes money. The bigger picture is, isn't this happening all over our country right now? And this is where I'm going to get a little bit on my soapbox, because it's not just the SPLC that is allegedly doing this. Think about all of the organizations that benefit from fanning hate in our country. Think about number one. Let's talk about politicians and PACs that raise money for politicians that fan the hate of the other side of the aisle, politicians that are playing the race card as hard as they possibly can to motivate their base, places, organizations that talk constantly about how awful things are and, hey, give us money because we'll try to fix that problem. I think we really, of course, somebody calls right when I'm talking. I think it is a really good moment to talk about and analyze on your own what other organizations out there are doing the same thing. News organizations. Just go really quickly and take a look at Fox News, CNN, doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. And they fan these flames too, don't they? And they get advertising money for their viewership. And even better, look at just the articles that have been written about this SPLC thing. Look at if it's a liberal leaning organization, they're going to write an article about how shocking and awful this is lawfare. This is the administration going after them. And then you look at conservative articles that have been written about this and how, it's great that they're taking down this charity disguised, that's really just a political organization. So that's the big message here. And maybe I haven't so artfully explained it, but these entities out there are benefiting from fanning the flames of hate. They're not really trying to put them out. And in this case, if these allegations are true, the SPLC was flat out paying them to keep hating so that they could keep getting donations. It's really scary. So the next stages is, of course, there's going to be a discovery process. It's a criminal allegation. There's going to be discovery process. There's going to be more that's going to come out. The SPLC is certainly going to become more vocal about defending this. We're going to get a lot of responses from Democrats and Republicans alike on this. So absolutely shocking allegations. I'm still flabbergasted by all of it. And I will keep you updated.
All right. Thank you so much, Megan. Hey, look, I love Megan. I think she did a great job breaking it down. And I want y'all to keep an eye on it. So I did leave the link to this down in the description. I did not leave the link to this one, however, but I want to put out an idea that Jay from Storybox put out this morning. I believe it was. Yeah, it was this morning. It was his late last night, whatever, because he's in Australia. He put out an idea that I just want y'all to listen to and let me know what y'all think. Y'all jump in and comment. What do you think about this idea that Jay is putting out? Let's go.
Right. So that was one. Then we had the SPLC, a hate group or hate organization that is funding lots of these so-called conservatives. The radical left organization hates the right, but uses the right, infiltrates the right with these bad faith individuals and pays them a hell of a lot of money to spew the hate. Now, what's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is the Groiper gang, their leader, Nick Fuentes. Ladies and gentlemen, he has decided to flee the country all of a sudden. Gee, why is that, I wonder? Just all of a sudden, it seems very coincidental, right? That a day after the SPLC, this white supremacist organization, decides to get exposed for fraud, Nick Fuentes, who attended the Charlottesville white supremacist rally, leaves Boston University after backlash, right? So Nick Fuentes, Charlottesville, that event put Nick Fuentes supposedly on the map. And now Nick Fuentes getting exposed for being a paid operative. So it looks like, allegedly. Because we've got to say that now, right? It's not definitively proven. But then he decides to flee the country. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've got nothing to hide, why the hell are you fleeing the country? Why are you all of a sudden just going away, literally a day after? Can't be coincidental that you had a pre-planned trip, right?
So let me jump in real quick. Shout out to Jay from Storybox. Let me show you on the indictment what I'm not saying Jay is right. I'm just saying that there might be something there. So if you go to the indictment, it's on page 3. It says F-37 was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right. That's the Charlottesville activity event in Charlottesville, Virginia, and attended the event at the direction of the SPLC. I'm not saying that this is Nick. I'm just saying maybe we need to look into it. F-37 made racist posts under supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees between 2015 and 2023. The SPLC secretly paid F-37 more than $270,000. I'm not saying that that's Nick. I just think we're just asking questions. There we go. We're just asking questions. There we go. We're back to just asking questions. Hold on. It says I lost the audio. 1 second. All right. So it lost the audio. So let me close that out. Let me rebuild it. I have no idea why it lost the audio like that. It does it every now and then. All right. And it lost the whole page. So we're going to filibuster while I pull it back up. So I just think I think that is maybe we need to be a little bit more discerning. Maybe we need to ask a few more questions. Like, how is it that, like, maybe we need to ask Nick, like, Nick, how is it that you keep, you say that you were debanked, but you don't seem to have any problem. Like, again, you're flying overseas. How is that possible if you've been debanked? Just something I wonder. Okay, let me pull this back in. Shout out to Jay from Storybox. All right, sorry about that, y'all. Let's go. Green hearts in the chat when you can hear.
It's strange to me. Very strange, because Candy Owens as well, she failed to tell her audience that there was going to be no show today. She supposedly thought that she did tell her audience there would be no show today. And guess where she's gone? She's left the country. Oh. Seems very, very coincidental indeed that, you know, you'd leave the country a day after this hate organization is exposed. Where are you going? I wonder. Oh, where she can go, the UK, supposedly.
So let me make sure I have it right. So Candace didn't do a show yesterday, Thursday. Can somebody let me know? I haven't been keeping up with Candace. I really have not. Oh, we're ready for Caleb. Let me tell you, I am so ready for court next week. Please. So did Candace have a show yesterday? I guess I could have looked it up. -1 attorney, y'all are wild. All right, let me look it up. Somebody look it up while we're watching this and just give me a yes or no in the chat. But I do, that's kind of interesting. If she did not have she had no show yesterday, she didn't tell anybody, that just seems odd. Tuesday's gonna be wild. I really am praying that we can watch that stream so we can just do a live stream watching it. She posted on X saying that she canceled her show yesterday. But why? Like, why did she not tell people ahead of time? Any other time she'll say, like, I'm going on vacation, I'm going to be out of pocket, I'll be away, which she has perfect right to do. But why did she not let them know ahead of time? Okay. That just seems odd. We're just asking questions.
The gay husband, Georgie boy. Because,
Dang, man.
ladies and gentlemen, it just keeps on getting better and better from here. Laura Loomer announced with not that long
Okay, yeah.
in terms of time apart from Candy.
All right, so we already talked about this. We did a whole video about this yesterday. About I'll let Jay tease it out, but we already talked about this, so we good.
Owens' announcement, Laura Loomer's announcement was way better. So Mark Kasowitz, remember how the Jewish Zionist lawyer that was defending Candace in the Macron case, remember him? Well, guess what? He has decided to withdraw as lead counsel on Candace Owens' legal team. He's no longer representing her as counsel. Now, maybe the guy decided to succumb to pressure from Laura Loomer. It's very interesting how after Laura Loomer exposes it, then Kasowitz decides to upend and leave. Oh. I wonder what Laura Loomer said to him to get him to actually leave. Because he would be making a lot of money from Candace. And I remember saying in one of my other videos, the only person that would be really like wishing that Candace doesn't shut up are her lawyers. And honestly, Mark Kasowitz, he would be making bank on Candace. The amount of lawsuits she's getting from people because of how utterly stupid and deranged she is something else.
Okay, I got to stop for a second. This is an excellent question. And I don't know. Something is going on. Do we think Candace is a part of the SPLC too? I can't say that I can't say. I can see why she would be. I can see why she could be a part, but on the same note, I can see why she's being funded by a foreign entity. I totally can see that. I can see why she's being funded by the left. I can see why she wouldn't possibly be funded by the SPLC or maybe all the above. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I'm kind of oh, this is what I can say.
I don't know, but I know. You know? I don't know, but I know.
I think we know. I think we know the truth. Let's go.
And Mark, I mean, mate, you're leaving. I get the whole moral aspect to it. Personally, I would never take to represent someone as demonic and evil as Candace is. But still, man, if I was morally bankrupt, you're missing out on a major nut, a gold nugget, man. Anyway, good thing is he withdrew. Comes days after Laura exposed how Candace hired a Zionist Jewish lawyer who also represents President Trump, despite talking about how much she hates Zionists. Maybe Trump said something. Who knows? But Laura Loomer poses the question, was the SPLC paying Candace Owens $500,000 a year to plagiarize David Duke? It's been a rough week, indeed. It was a rough weekend, and it got to a rough week. And it's turned out that Candace Owens couldn't handle it, so she's fled the country. Oh, where have you gone to, Candy? Where? You never told your audience. It's not like something you forget to tell your audience. Hey, guys, I've had a planned trip out of the country. I'm not going to be here on Friday.
And given the fact that Candace rarely goes anywhere besides outside of Nashville, because, you know, she wouldn't go to TPUSA to debate them. She wouldn't go to the Charlie Kirk Memorial. She doesn't leave Nashville, right? That's why she was dragging her feet even about the Macron case in Delaware. The fact that she would get on a plane and then go across the pond, that just seems odd to me, man. It just seems, it might be a self-deportation. It might be. There's some shenanigans happening here. I don't know what it is. Something is shenanigan. Because, you know, if you shenan once, you're shenan again. That was stupid.
Yeah, guys. Sorry, no show today. Not something like it's all of a sudden she just announces it and everyone's like having a panic attack. Like, oh no, where's Candace? Or all the cult members. And then she announces, oh, guess what? I'm not playing, guys. I'm out of the country. I'm not here. So the SPLC story broke, and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes both decided to leave the country. What is happening? Yeah. Candace goes, have been traveling overseas all day. So sorry if I'm late to reacting, but this is a ridiculous trend that should be edited. Talking about the Laura Loomer and Candace Owens trade racial slurs and personal attacks in public feud. I did not trade racial slurs with Laura Loomer, Trump's top advisor. She is a manic and throwing racial slurs, and I've been laughing at her.
So real quick, I have a video coming up later on today about Laura Loomer's, I'm going to say racially charged comments toward Candace, only just to give context. I'm sorry. I think this is Candace has been doing this for years, right? She's been isolating herself from the black folk, calling us whatever. And now all of a sudden she wants to say that somebody's being mean to her because somebody called her nappy-headed. I'm sorry, ma'am, you're going to deal with that all by yourself. You've been doing this for forever, then you deal with that over there by yourself. Because you claim that you don't want it to be about race. You want to be, seen as different, Candace, then you deal with that over there by yourself. And I'm sorry, Laura Loomer, some of the stuff she said was pretty violent. I ain't gonna even lie. She was pretty harsh. But what are we supposed to do? Candace has been doing some pretty harsh, some pretty violent, some pretty diabolical things to Erica Kurt and Charlie Kirk's children. So why not? I'm sorry. This is not my fight. I'm gonna stay in my lane. I'm just gonna referee it and eat my popcorn. So no, I don't care.
Right. So you hosting I think it's the SAW, want to play a game, dummy thingy. That's not a racial slur, or leading into a racial slur, I wonder? No, you've just been making fun of her, so to speak. You're making fun of her appearance and calling her Larry. Yeah, not slurs at all. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, you're honestly a dingbat, Candace. You seriously are. And if you guys want to know something, Candace Owens' favorability rating, favorable, 18%, unfavorable, 35%. Echelon Insights poll. Interesting, that. Not many people seem to think or take Candace Owens seriously. And I mean, if you're not guilty, why the hell are you all of a sudden jumping on a plane and leaving the country? What have you got to hide, I wonder? And this is on the back of President Trump saying that Brigitte Macron is better looking than you. And then also on the back of the fact that he said you've got a very low IQ. And then Laura Loomer just like uncovers all this stuff in a very short space of time. Your trust, Battery Lane Trust Fund. What's going on? We haven't forgotten about that. Maybe the IRS is after her. Maybe the lawyers in France called her to go over. We don't know. But this is fascinating, isn't it? Seems like Candace is about to get her comeuppance. Maybe.
Comeuppance
and as
is crazy.
Mr. T used to always say, I pity the fool. I really do pity Candace Owens.
I don't, actually. I don't.
You pity the fool. She is a major one. Not only is she a narcissistic, psychopathic dingbat of a witch, she's a fool. And fools eventually come unstuck, don't they? Anyway, we'll watch and see this all unfold and play out right before our very eyes. That's enough from me. You guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Jay from Storybox. Excellent content creator. We're going to have him on the show again. We need to have him on the show. I need to make that happen. All right. I got one fun for you. And we'll end it on a fun note. But I do want to say shout out to MT. Thank you so much for this $5 super. Have you seen the Russell Brand stuff? I can't believe so many people are defending it because it's legal, as though 9 isn't legal in some countries. I think I know what you're talking about. I got problems with Russell Brand. And I got problems with Russell Brand spoke on TPUSA stage. I got problems with Russell Brand as being considered a quote unquote Christian. I got a lot of problems with Russell Brand. So I don't know the fullness of this particular, but I was reading some of the comments from you all, and I'm going to leave it alone because I don't want to mess up whatever happened. But as I've always said, if somebody professes to be a Christian, then give them enough time. give them time. And so if he professes to be in Christ, okay, then I'm going to give you, 33 years at a minimum. And let's see what the fruit looks like. Same thing with Candace. Like, give them time to show their fruit, and then we'll know we can judge a tree by its fruit. All right. His accent makes it so much better. Oh, yeah, Jay is hilarious, man. We will definitely have him back on the show again. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Babylon Bee tapped in and jumped in on the Southern Poverty Law Center debacle. And the bee is undefeated. The Babylon Bee remains undefeated. Boys and girls, children of all ages, let's go. Green hearts in the chat when you can hear.
Hi, I'm Stephen McLaughlin with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Every day, hundreds of racists want to spread hate in their communities, but they are an increasingly marginalized group. Without funding, they are often unable to continue their important work, the work of being racist. This is local racist Randy. Randy hates black people.
And the Indians.
Dang, Randy.
And the Indians. But without your support, he runs the risk of not being able to be racist against anyone at all.
There just ain't no money in being racist these days. I can't even afford to get my KKK robes dry cleaned. They're all covered in barbecue sauce and
barbecue sauce.
Just don't got no money to fix it, It's all right. It's all right.
That's nasty.
No one told you to talk, Randy. With just a small donation to the Southern Poverty Law Center, people like Randy here can continue to spread their message of hate and intolerance.
With the price of lumber, I can't afford to build a cross to burn anymore. But I can with your help. For just a few dollars a day, I can afford the spray paint I need to put my message out there on places of worship.
And wouldn't that be just great for this world? Call today and we'll send you a picture of a racist in prison that can only make parole with your money. You'll also receive this free tote bag.
Why?
Which also doubles as a Klansman hood. Convenient. Remember, without the Southern Poverty Law Center, racism might disappear forever. And that would be bad for the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Wait, there's one more little segment.
I also hate the Mexicans.
Me too.
Just want to put that in there.
We all hate the Mexicans.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the Babylon Bee like this? Why? The bee is crazy. I love the Babylon Bee. Shout out. Put some bees in the chat. The letter B or the insect. Is it an insect? It's an insect, right? I think it's an insect. I'm gonna call it insect today. The Babylon Bee is ridiculous. Oh, someone explained to me how this is a parody. I wasn't prepared for that one. I wasn't actually prepared for that one, Caleb. Shout out to Caleb. I appreciate y'all so much. The Babylon Bee is ridiculous. I love them. I love them. Some reason or other, I have a bee. I have some members only bee. Yeah. Why did we have this one? Oh, because Candace was talking about the bee farmers. That's why we have the bees. I was like, wait, why do I have these bees? Okay. Shout out to Babylon. Okay, good people. Thank y'all so much for rocking with me. Thank you so very much for jumping in. I know this was like an impromptu live stream. Mark the editor. I don't even know if he even put a thumbnail on it yet. We'll make sure the thumbnail's on there soon enough. The Mormon bees. Yes, the Mormon bees. And I totally forgot about that. See, that's how much foolishness Candace puts out, the metric tons of craziness that she puts out, that we forgot stuff, right? We have forgotten things that she has said, which is crazy work. I want to say I appreciate y'all. And I'm going to give you a little heads up since we got so many of you all here. The month of May, me and another content creator are doing a challenge on our channels. And for the month of May, y'all can start now, though. Y'all can start now. We are going to, he and I are trying to race to get 100,000 likes on our channel in the month of May. But y'all get warmed up now. Hit the like button now. And if the first one to get 100,000 likes on their channel in the month of May, the other one, the losing one, will drop 100 memberships, gifted memberships onto the winner's channel. So there's 100 gifted memberships up for grabs. And this is going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. So please get in the habit of hitting the like button when you come over here. I don't want to tell you who it is yet, who we're competing against, because y'all be hanging out over there too. I see y'all over there. But he and I are going to compete to see who can get 100,000 likes in a month, which is crazy work. What would you say here, Jason? What, Jason? You should check out. I believe it's what these groups are into, and destroying conservative numerology is antithetical to Christianity. Oh, I've heard this word before. I'm a butcher. I've actually heard this before. Where have we heard this? Gematria. It's called gematria. Where have we heard this from? Isn't this what Candace does when she always talking about the same? She sees the same. No, that's numerology. What is it? I've heard this before. Let me look it up real quick. All right. So, yeah, because some lady said that she used a gematria calendar or calculator. I remember that. It was a video I did. Oh, it was I know who it was. Okay. I don't know how they use it though, but I do remember this conversation we had about gematria. The practice. Okay, let me pull this in so y'all can see what I'm looking at. Make sure you hit the like button. In gematria numerology, let me see, where does it say the practice of? How does this even play out? Okay, in gematria numerology, blah, 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 is the practice of assigning a numerical value to a name, word, or phrase by reading it as a number, or sometimes by using an alphanumeric cipher. The letters in the alphabet involved have standard numerical values, but a word can yield several values if a cipher is used. That is some crazy work. I know what you're talking about. It's the same as numerology, but it uses specific calculators. Yeah, and there is a calculator for it, and like you put a word in there, and it comes up with like, here's a gematria calculator. Like this video, please. Okay, let's see what that says. All right, so what does it mean though? How much I like this? Like this video, please. This is the values. Okay, whatever. But what does it mean? It says, like this video is not in the gematria database. Okay, so let's add it. We want to add it to the calc. There we go. We want to help them out. There we go. Like this video, please. All right, let's see. I need 100. I'm not taking it seriously. Likes. All right, let's see what the gematria calculator tells me. I'm gonna add it to it. I'm messing the whole calculator up by adding these crazy phrases to it. They're gonna come knocking on my door. They're gonna come knocking on your boy door. Like, what are you doing? It's just, it's just how people point to correlating data points. I guarantee you that's what Candace does. 1,000%. Yeah, it's a scam. It's a scam. It's totally a scam. I totally believe that. You don't even have to worry about it. Okay, so if y'all could help your brother out, You're doing it wrong, Cheech. Uh-oh. What am I doing wrong? Uh-oh. Okay. So in the month of May, so starting whatever that is, May 1st, me and another content creator, I'll tell you who it is. I'll do like an official announcement with this person. We are shooting for 100,000 likes on our channel. So the first one that gets 100, the first one that gets 100,000 wins, and the loser has to gift 100 memberships to their channel. He better not raise the price on his memberships either. Scrub. But anyway, so if you could, please, if I've earned it, please go ahead and like the video. Thank you so much for not only helping out by subscribing and liking and commenting and sharing and hyping and all that kind of stuff, but being a part of the best live chat on the internet and the most electrifying comment section on the planet. I really do appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Oh, somebody's outside. Here's somebody cutting the grass right outside my window. Like, what in the world? It's my neighbor. Sorry. They are real close. I might need to go check that out. What are you doing, my guy? Anyway, y'all, thank you so much for rocking with me. Thank you so much. The links for all these videos will be down in the description. I'm going to add those, the Babylon Bee, and I'll add Jay's as well. So thank y'all so much for rocking with me. I'll see you all real soon. Until then, everybody, grace and peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Whip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment, because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.